Guys, okay. It's 2 o'clock and now the board will convene. First order of business is the roll call. Madam Chair, second,
Vice Chairman Scholl,
present.
Member Benton, Member Connors, Chairwoman Maderas, Member DeSimone,
Present.
Member Giacone,
Present.
Member Johnson,
Present.
Executive Director Robert Raposa,
Present.
Legal Counsel Raymond Parcher.
Present.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. A quorum being present, the meeting will commence. The first order of business on today's agenda is the board may discuss and vote to approve the minutes of the meeting held on Thursday, November 2, 2023. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. So moved. And so voted on. Second item, the board may discuss and vote to approve the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, November 7, 2023. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Number 3, the board may vote to certify the results of all special elections conducted on Tuesday, November 7, 2023, and we call upon Bob for a report.
Good afternoon, Chairman and honorable board members. On November 7th, the Board of Elections conducted 16 elections in 12 of the 39 communities in Rhode Island. The elections are as follows. Representative in Congress, District 1, in which there were 19 communities. Senator and General Assembly, District 1, Providence, and there were 14 referendums. The towns included Barrington, Bristol, Central Falls, in which there were 3 questions on the ballot, Cumberland, East Greenwich, Lincoln, which had 2 questions on the ballot, Middletown, North Kingstown, which had 2 questions, North Smithfield, and Warren. We opened 96 precincts on election day and 21 early voting sites for this election, for a total of 117 sites. A total of 77,451 of the 407,547 eligible voters voted for this election. This turnout represented 19% of the total eligible. The staff has confirmed the results on the official report that you possess. And have confirmed, again, all the races balance for the totals. And if you don't have any questions, the staff requests you vote to certify the results of the Tuesday, November 7th, 2023 special elections. And if you also agree, we request to be able to use your digitized signature to be used on the election certificate.
Any questions of Bob? No? The chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to certify the results of the special election on November 7th, 2023.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Auntie. And Commissioner, would you include our digital signatures with?
Yes, I will.
motion?
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The elections are hereby certified. So we'll request the staff to get those certifications out to the various parties. Item number 4, which will move to a future date, that deals with the contract with Election Services and Software, Inc. Additional work is being done on that, as I understand, and that will be presented at a later date. Correct? Number 5, the board will review the request from the Middletown Concerned Neighbors for a recount from the November 7, 2023 election on the Middletown ballot question number 1, which was $190 million in school bonds for the construction of new Middletown schools in accordance with Chapter 19 of Title 17 of the Rhode Island General Laws. So is there someone here to talk about this?
Mr. Chair, I can at least frame the issues for the board before hearing from Mr. Nunez and possibly others. The request is submitted on behalf of the Middletown concerned neighbors. Before reaching the merits of the request, it is first necessary for the board to determine whether or not the entity that's making the request for a recount in the context of a ballot question measure satisfies eligibility of standing. That is required by both statute and by regulation. So under 171937.1, only those people or groups or organizations of, quote, recognized standing can challenge the results of a ballot measure. That is done by regulation, and we have a regulation that reads in part that pursuant to the applicable statute, where a person or organization has reported expenditures as a ballot question advocate, either in support of or in opposition to a ballot question, that advocate will only have, quote, recognized standing to request a recount if, and then there are a series of criteria that would apply. In this case, it appears that the applicable one would be subsection 2. In ballot questions receiving between 1,001 and 10,000 votes, the ballot advocate has independently expended over $5,000 in advocating that ballot question during the advocacy cycle. Mr. Nunez has made that determination. He can share that with the board. If it is over the $5,000 threshold, then you would advance to the next step. If it is below that, then by regulation, they would not have the standing to seek a recount of the ballot question measure.
Yeah, thank you very much. Miguel?
I'm sorry, can I just ask a quick the only qualification is the expenditure, according to the statute?
The expenditure is looked at in the context of the number of votes that are cast. That is right. So when the regulation was first adopted some 10 years ago, the question would be, can you, who may have spent $1 on a ballot measure or may have had just a, quote, interest in a ballot measure, who would have standing to compel that the state incur the costs of going through an entire recount on a ballot measure? And the regulation came up with this formula, which kind of mirrors the formula that's used for regular elections for seeking recounts with candidates, where there's a number used of votes. This one also uses a number of votes, but then ties that number of votes with the amount that's expended. So it is essentially those two components, number of votes cast, as well as the amount of money that was spent by the advocate itself.
Thank you.
I have a question. Chair.
Yes, please.
Mr. Macasio. So, Ray, so the amount you said was keyed into the number of votes, obviously, but is the amount the same on a statewide question as opposed to a local question? Is it just number of votes?
It's the amount of money as well as the amount of votes. That's right. Yeah, there's no, looking at this and under 15.4 of the applicable statute, the focus is on both of those components. So you could have, for example, a local question in the city of Providence that might garner a lot more interest than it would even on a statewide level, just depending on what that question is.
Well, I know, but I mean, I'm thinking about in these cases of these school bonds.
Yeah, there is no distinction
in a
with,
small community, $5,000 is a lot of money. but
That's right.
To spend on a question that, I mean, it's going to affect the community. But okay, I mean, if that's the regulation, that's the regulation.
Is that a Board of Elections, just to be clear, regulation? Who issued that?
That's issued by the board itself. That's right.
How long ago were those issued?
I would say probably 2010. Looking at it, it looks like this regulation was just automatically renewed, and it would be a better practice once it's coming up for expiration that we actually have a board meeting on it. But I think a number of them were just through the secretary's, the documents that were filed with the secretary's office appear to have just been renewed as of that date. So that's something we should look at going forward in the
I
future.
guess to me, it seems like a high threshold, that's all, for a small local question, like, and I realize it's not small to the community, but, in a smaller community, $5,000 seems to me to be a high threshold, but if that's what the reg says, at this point, that's what it says, but, okay.
Any other questions? If not, we'll hear from Miguel.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I actually have the regulation here up on the screen. As you can see, there are 7 different criteria, 7 different framework of votes cast in which these rules would be applied. And in this case, under 15.4, item number 2, it does indicate when there are between 1,001 and 10,000 votes, the ballot question advocate would have to have expended over $5,000 for advocacy or for or against the particular question. In this case, the Middletown Concerned Neighbors Group filed a report on Saturday, November 11th, with our campaign finance division. And as you can see there on the report that was filed, they have expended $3,866 according to their filed report, which they did note was a final report according to our campaign finance department. So it would seem that it would fall under the $5,000 threshold for expenditures to be considered for standing.
So are those, and do you know whether those are actual dollar expenditures, or are they expenditures in kind, like time and service and things like that?
I'll defer to Rick Thornton, our campaign finance director, so he can go into some more of the details on the filing.
Good afternoon. There were actual expenditures. What you're seeing on the screen is the cover sheet. There was another form that is part of the report that includes the itemized expenses that added to the 3866 total. Some of those were paid to Island Communications for informational ads, tap printing for yard signs, Staples for informational flyers, and then an expense to an individual for web postings.
So they were all actuals.
That's correct.
So was there any claim in that report for in-kind or services that were provided maybe by members of the group that did volunteer work or any of that?
No, there are, by statute 25.2, any contributions received would need to be itemized if they total over $1,800.
Right.
And there are no such contributions listed. There's no indication on this report. As you can see, the very bottom line of that section that's highlighted in yellow, there is a separate line item for in-kind contributions, and they're designating 0.
They put 0?
Yes.
Okay. And one last thing, Richard, as far as that report, are they able to amend that report?
Yes, they are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
In terms of qualifying under the statute, if we would assume that they would qualify to have recognized standing, based on the statute 171937.3, the results for election day, as you can see, they were approved 2,067, reject 1,942 for a total votes cast of 4,009. The statute requires that they receive 2%. There'd be a difference of 2% or 80 votes for the total votes cast. In this case, there is a difference of 3.12% or 125 votes. So it would appear under the statute that they do not qualify for a recount based on the difference in the approve and reject.
So again, just from my perspective, and I'm only one person on the board, I am much more comfortable saying they didn't meet a statutory requirement than saying they didn't meet the $5,000, because I'm sure those people did not include on their campaign, because I know a lot of people don't include time that people have donated to that that campaign and that fund. I'm sure they stood outside. I'm sure they printed up flyers that, probably didn't get listed there. And if they amended, they would probably get over the requirement. I do agree, Miguel, that they are short of the statutory requirement, but I feel much more comfortable if we're going to deny a recount based on the statutory requirement than based on that regulation. And again, that's just me, but however the rest of the board
Yes,
feels.
Randy?
I agree with Commissioner Deesman. I would hate to, we obviously have other factors here, like the statutory requirement, just the percentage wise, but I would hate to tell the members of the Middletown Concerted Citizens that, sorry, you didn't spend, if you only had spent another $1,200, you'd be, so I think something we need to discuss as a board going
It
forward.
may need
maybe.
a modification if the
review it,
board
yeah.
wants to modify it, they certainly can. I
Because
should,
there's, I'm sorry, just to finish my thought. I mean, having been involved locally in Cranston, we've had a lot of advocacy groups who spent a lot of their time and effort and energy on things, and they may not have spent money, but they certainly have spent their resources in terms of time and effort. So I would hate to say, on a technicality, we can't even consider this, although the percentage obviously is a clear cut item, but.
I think
Thank
from the staff's perspective, we wanted to provide the board with both aspects. There is a regulatory aspect. for the
Yes.
Oh,
state.
absolutely.
I'm not-
Thank
I'm
you.
not-
Yeah, it's not a
No,
criticism
I'm not.
of the staff. Yeah.
No, as I,
yeah.
Commissioner Jacoboni, and I know myself, I wasn't criticizing the staff for that at all. I mean,
Oh, understood.
we have a regulation, you have to look at the regulation.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chair will entertain a motion.
So just one more
Yes.
question. So, Ms. Marcaccio, so from the statutory standpoint, we cannot hold a recount. We are prohibited under the law.
yeah, that was going to be the second and more important thing to mention, which Miguel certainly clarified to me is that the standing is always your first part of your analysis, but the dispositive component would be the statute saying that they didn't reach that qualification and eligibility for that spread, that 2% spread.
So I mean, while I'm not inclined to deny them on standing, I don't want to address standing at this point because we do have a regulation. I would move to deny based upon the fact that they don't meet the 2% statutory requirement.
Any second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote on it. I guess we'll have a roll call on that.
Vice Chairman Jones?
Yes, in support of the motion.
You're in support of it?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. DeSimone?
I to deny.
Mr. Jacoboni?
No,
I'm good.
I mean, I
confused.
to
You-
deny the request.
but you're
I'm in
voting in
support
favor of the
I'm
motion.
voting in
Yes.
favor of the motion.
Yes.
Yes, in support of the motion.
Okay. Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. The motion to deny is approved. Okay, we'll have to look at the rules and regulations to improve those, so we don't run into this problem again. The next item is number 6, which will, which we're going to move to at a later date. Is that correct, Bob?
We're just going to cancel that item as there were no other requests.
Okay. All right, canceled. That's the item was the board will review and vote on other requests for a recount on election matters from November 7th elections in accordance with Chapter 19, Title 17. So there were no requests. That's pulled from the agenda. Item number 7, the board may discuss and vote on hiring subcommittee outlined for the executive director's position. So I have a report on that. And so the subcommittee met. prior to this meeting at 1:30, and we went over the proposed sequence of events in hiring an executive director. We've come up with a basic schedule, which we'll submit to the full board. And that basic schedule is as follows. The job posting will be posted on Apply Rhode Island, which I understand will be posted as of midnight today. And they'll be posted for 30 days. So therefore, it will be for the period today through December 16th. We'll also request that the job posting be posted on 5 other sites. And those sites are the Election Center, the Board of Election itself on their website, the Secretary of State's office on their website, the National Association of State Executive Directors, and also the National Association of Secretaries of State. And as I understand that, most of those will have links to apply to Rhode Island. So whoever wants to apply from those sites will be able to link in and see what the application process is all about. After the deadline is passed, the subcommittee will meet. That's the subcommittee to elect or select the candidates for consideration. Will meet at Wednesday, December 20, 2023 at 2 p.m. And we'll sort through the applicants and reduce those to approximately 10 or 12, and then schedule interviews. Those interviews will be conducted in an executive session, and those interviews will be scheduled for Thursday, January 11th, 2024, and hopefully we can schedule those at an off-site facility such as CCRI or RIC. We'll make those arrangements. Then after that, the subcommittee will then meet in executive session the following day to conduct additional interviews if there are more than 10 candidates that we wish to interview. After that, on January 16th at 9:30, the subcommittee will meet in executive session over here to review those candidate interviews and then come up with a list of finalists. The finalists will then be presented to the full board on January 23, and they will schedule interviews by the full board, and we've scheduled the tentative date for February 1, 2024, with the 4 finalists, and they'll schedule those at commencing at 9:30 until completed. And after the interviews are conducted on that day, the full board will meet in executive session to discuss the candidates. And then we'll have a meeting on February 6th where we'll post the hiring and have a full vote on that time. So any comments?
I have a
Yes.
couple questions. How are the other sites to be posted on? This might be obvious because they're all elections related, decided on, and were there considerations of any other sites, like just thinking LinkedIn, which is,
That's a good idea, actually.
so,
Oh, okay, going ahead of
Good
the
idea,
LinkedIn, sure. Can add that too.
We asked Bob, we asked the secretary
yeah,
for some recommendations.
okay.
These are the ones that we came up with, but LinkedIn, sure, why not?
Thank you. And then the other question is, just reflecting a lot on, in addition to Bob's transition, we're, we have an election coming up, and that the staff will be working on. I know, speaking from experience, when I was leaving my job as an executive director, the board conducted sort of a survey of sorts of the internal staff, who obviously have vested interest in the success of elections and certainly in the position. And so I wondered if the committee would, going forward, I also wonder what, I mean, Bob, if you know of any, if HR, like what the processes are through HR, but if considered by the committee, I would say that might be something that we might want to pursue internally and just and it's just purely like information gathering. What are the, qualities that you want to see? What are the different things? Because I mean, the internal staff are obviously experts on the operations of the Board of Elections and, who their next leader is. So just raising that, I guess, as a question that doesn't have to be answered today, but potentially something that we should consider.
Right, any other comments? No? Okay,
And I'm sorry, just when do you need, the next time you meet is December 20th?
um,
Or do you meet
well,
before that?
the deadline for application will be
Is
December
the
16th.
16th.
Though there may be a few that dribble in afterwards, we'll consider those
Okay.
as well. But we'll be meeting on Wednesday, December 20.
Okay,
That-
So
that's a
I
sub-
would
that's
just
a sub-
ask-
That's a subcommittee. excuse me, the
got it.
subcommittee,
Yeah,
okay.
no, got it. And so I would just ask if, if there is consideration, and I would strongly recommend there is, that there, is a way to gather that information from the staff somewhere prior to interviews or even the deadline.
Yes, I think we can consider that, sure. Bob, you can help us out on that? Okay, yeah. Right.
We'll add, because you can add, if you want to have a motion to add to
A
our,
survey.
well, two things, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And then to add in staff and suggestions from the director that would go to the subcommittee.
We
Okay.
can do that.
And because Bob said he could
We can
absolutely do that. by the
You
20th.
can do that. And well, then I guess my question is like, with regards to OMA, like how would we arrive at what those questions are? Or Bob, would you just,
I could make a survey for the board, for the staff.
okay. Okay, I'll make that as a motion to post on LinkedIn and to develop a survey to solicit feedback from the staff on qualities and qualifications of their next leader.
Right. Is that a
Second.
motion? Second? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Any other comments, suggestions, recommendations? No?
Ray, do we need a motion for all of those dates that were reported? Or,
You can just accept accept the recommendation of the report and adopt it, which I think you've done. If you want to clarify, you can, but from Ms. Johnson's request, it seems like you've added those into the recommended report, and so that would be comprehensive, I believe.
So do we have a motion to adopt the report?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? The report is hereby adopted, and we'll just prepare a schedule. Okay, perhaps you can, I'll work with you and we'll come up with the exact dates. I know you try to take all those notes. I was speaking a little fast, but I'll give you those dates. Right. Okay, the next item of business is, it's item number 8. The board may vote to meet in executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A4 and 17-25-5A7I to discuss and/or vote on possible violations of campaign finance laws in one campaign finance matter.
so moved.
Second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, we're going to meet now in executive session. Regular meeting. Do we have a motion to seal minutes of the executive session?
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor, say aye. Aye. Minutes is
Aye.
so sealed. And we'll call upon Ray for a report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The four members present now were in executive session. There is one matter to report out involving Konstantinos Stratus. A report was provided by Campaign Finance Director Richard Thornton concerning campaign finance activity between June of 22 through June 1, 22 through June 30, 2023. Mr. Thornton provided a summary of delinquent campaign finance reports with his audit and recommended the entry of a consent order, which was provided to the board in executive session. Board Member Johnson moved to approve and adopt the proposed consent order, seconded by Mr. Giacavone. All four members present voted in favor, none opposed. The motion was carried.
All right, thank you very much. There's no need for us to vote on that, is right?
That's been done, yes,
Good.
you're set.
So the next motion is to whether or not we're going to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.